Season 1 of Marvel Rivals is progressing, and I'm still incredibly obsessed with this game. So, to keep consistent with my previous video, I decided to make another Rivals video, this time talking about the characters I want to see in the game. Granted, this is hardly an original concept, being done by plenty of other YouTubers, but I feel like my list has more unique characters, and I've also thought out some of their moves. Kind of. I'm not all that knowledgeable in the hero shooter genre, nor am I a game developer, so bear with me here. I've split this video into 3 parts, my picks for Vanguards, Duelists, and Strategist. I've selected the 5 picks I want to see the most in the game for each. So without wasting any more of your time, consider subscribing as it helps out a ton, and I hope you enjoy. My first and honestly my number 1 pick for this game is War Machine as a Vanguard. I love War Machine. He's honestly one of the coolest heroes out there, and he definitely needs to appear in more media. He had a design for Marvel's Avengers, but since that game flopped, they ended up just making it an Iron Man skin, unfortunately. However, it's been said that characters with similar abilities will feature as their own character, not as a skin or something. War Machine could essentially be Iron Man with guns. We don't have any airborne tanks, though I'm not entirely sure how they even implement this. I just think it'd be cool, and it'd probably help deal with the annoying flying characters. He doesn't have to be flying all the time, but it wouldn't really make sense if he couldn't. He could be able to switch between his shoulder gun and his repulsors. He could also fire missiles without having Tony's armor overdrive. As for his ultimate, he shouldn't have an ability like Iron Man's. You know how in Avengers, Tony summoned his Hulkbuster? Hear me out, War Machine gets that. And his ultimate one-liner is,
boom, you looking for this?
Do you know how cool it'd be to get like a playable Hulkbuster? Similar to how Magic and Hulk have other forms, the Hulkbuster could be like that, but instead of just being a brute force mode, it could be a brute force mode, but with guns. And missiles, obviously. Like, imagine it goes first person and you control it like a mech, wiping out everything in your path. Would it be ridiculously OP? Yes. Is it a little too similar to Punisher's ultimate? Also yes. Do I care? No. Alternatively, it could be a simple artillery strike, but I like a Hulkbuster better. Seriously though, I mainly want him in the game to recreate the scene from Iron Man 2 where they fight hammer drones. Imagine a team up between the two, it would be so cool to see. Another team up could be with Punisher getting a damage boost as a reference to when he wore the armor in one of the most plot armor comics I've ever read. And as for his voice actor, I would hope they could get Daniel Bacon, the guy who played Rhodey in Iron Man Armored Adventures, the most underrated show I've ever seen. But I'd understand if they want to go with someone older. Anyways, yeah, I really want War Machine to be in the game. I haven't thought out most other characters to this extent, but I do still want them in, starting with Red Hulk. Red Hulk is such a peculiar character to implement, but actually really easy to differentiate from Hulk if you're smart about it. While he could easily be a Hulk skin, Red Hulk has more unique powers that I think could make him his own character. The most prevalent being his affinity relating to heat. The angrier he gets, the more heat he generates. Instead of turning into Monster Hulk like Hulk does, he could charge up his fire powers and deal burning damage to the enemy team as he hits them. Since he doesn't have the Gamma Belt, it wouldn't really make sense if he turned into General Ross at all. So keeping him as just Red Hulk would make the most sense to me. Even cooler would be if he could breathe fire at some point using his powers. That would be so sick. Oh, and he loves guns, so there's that. Now, we only have one female Vanguard, that being Penny Parker, so for a second female, Medusa is someone I doubt many would pick normally. The Inhumans in general have, let's face it, dwindled in popularity in the past few years, probably because of that one show no one remembers. I think her hair abilities alone could make for a sick implementation. Her main attack could be similar to Venom's, with her hair attacking with 4 shots. And she could grab someone with her hair as a stun, maybe slam them around or something. And as for her ultimate, maybe she should extend her hair and grab multiple enemies, holding them in place like Groot's ultimate does. Honestly, that's pretty much all that comes to mind with her. I'm not the biggest fan of the Inhumans, but I've always thought that they were underrated, and considering their latest appearance wasn't as mind-blowing as we thought it'd be, a game like Rivals, which already has a few smaller characters, is a perfect place to bring them back to the forefront. That's just my take. Blue Marvel is another pick of mine. Like I said, more lesser-known characters would be cool, and Blue Marvel would be a unique pick since most people seem to be picking every other well-known name. If you don't know, this guy's strength and durability is on the same level as the Hulk, Thor, and even Sentry. Blue Marvel has the power of antimatter from the negative zone, and since 1 gram of antimatter is the equivalent to a single atomic bomb, and he can manipulate millions of it, yeah, he's OP. We also don't really have airborne Vanguards, and I know it's because of how much more annoying it'd be to hit a flying death machine, but since I put War Machine already and tons of people want him, having Blue Marvel would be cool too. Then again, since they didn't give Adam Warlock of all people any flying, they would probably tone down Blue Marvels too. However, one character more likely and probably more asked for is Thanos, the Mad Titan. Now he's a bit of an interesting case. Non-comic readers probably don't know this, but Thanos has more powers in the comics aside from the Infinity Gauntlet. However, I do think that the Gauntlet in his arsenal would be an insane addition, so let's continue as if he had that. Obviously, he could enhance his Cosmic Blast with the Power Stone as his primary attack, but the other stones would be game-changing and, let's face it, really annoying to face in-game. I'm not a game developer, so I'm not thinking about balance or anything like that, just what the stone's capabilities would be, and they'd probably be really similar to other people's abilities. The Space Stone could give him a quick portal similar to what Magic has, and a Sun move. The Time Stone could give him increased speed, the Reality Stone could turn him invisible to enemies, so he could sneak up and violently beat them to death. The Soul Stone could, well, I'm not sure since his powers aren't very consistent. A simple shield would work. Finally, the Mind Stone could stun enemies and use a laser move like Iron Man's laser. And as for his ultimate, obviously what comes to mind is a snap to wipe out half the enemy team. Of course, this is kind of OP, so maybe instead it could be something similar to Scarlet Witch's ultimate, but more terrifying. Again, not a game developer, so I don't even know how this would work. But a man can dream, can he? Don't answer that. And that ends my Vanguard section. Let's follow it up with the Duelists, as if there weren't enough of them already.
I can't stand Spider-Man! I can't stand him!
We don't have nearly enough Spider-Man villains as we could potentially have. And who better than the arch nemesis of Spider-Man, Green Goblin?
Godspeed, Spider-Man.
Another flying character wouldn't really be a surprise since we already have like 2 or 3. Goblin could throw his pumpkin bombs from the air, catching the enemy off guard, and maybe for one of his moves he could fire blades from his glider as a reference to how he usually ends up dying. Rockets from the glider could also be cool. Honestly, I can't really think of much else that he could do, but I still think that he'd be a neat addition to the roster. Speaking of Spider-Man, Miles Morales as his own character would be kinda sick. Now, I know he could end up being a skin for Peter, but I honestly think he's better suited for his own slot. His bioelectricity and invisibility alone separates him enough from Peter to validate him being a different character. I know people are going to say Miles is similar to Peter from a gameplay perspective, but here's the thing. Plenty of characters are similar to one another. Mr. Fantastic's ultimate is similar to Bucky's ultimate, Spider-Man's Get Over Here is similar to Bucky's hook, Venom's web swinging obviously is similar to Peter's web swinging. So, Miles having the same web swinging and a few other mechanics doesn't mean he can't be a new character. Anyways, I wish for him to be voiced by Najee Jeter so he could go along with Yuri Lowenthal as Peter. Oh, speaking of the Insomniac games, those games showed how different he could be from Peter. Hell, his ultimate could just be straight from the Insomniac games with the exploding electricity. Miles is someone I like to see in the game alongside Peter. Not as a skin because, well, he's Miles, and I think that's valid enough. Next up is another villain since I don't think we have enough of those in the game to begin with. Mandarin. Iron Man's Rogues Gallery has always been underrated and underutilized, so I figured, why not bring his underrated rivalry with our Mandarin into the fray? The Ten Rings alone will make him a sick-ass character to play as. I don't know much about Mandarin in general, but I will say I don't think the Ten Rings should be used like they were in Shang-Chi, instead used as, well, rings. His primary fire could be switched between the fire, lightning, and white light rings. The vortex ring could be used to make a tornado that runs down a path in front of the player. The ice ring could be used to freeze enemies like how Luna Snow does it, and for his ultimate, the disintegration beam could, well, launch a disintegration beam. It even canonically has a cooldown. Huh, maybe I do know more about Mandarin than I thought, but yeah, more villains would be a W for the game. But time for some more underrated characters, in this case, Darkhawk. By far one of the most underrated characters, like, ever in Marvel. Just look at his costume alone.
Immaculate, Mr. President.
Darkhawk, like Luna Snow, is considered a C-tier character, so why not bring him to Rivals to increase his popularity? Let me give you a quick rundown of his powers and stuff since most might not know. Using a special amulet, he can switch between his normal human body and the Darkhawk android body. He has these cool retractable wings in the android body, which I can imagine could be used to fly forward with the wings pointed forward as a stabbing attack. The amulet could be used to channel concussive force blasts, and he has a grappling hook on his arms. And for his ultimate, at one point in the comics, he could combine his power into a giant hawk construct around his body, so that should give you plenty of ideas on what he can do. Honestly, he's always been one of the more underrated characters, and probably the least known on this list. But I'm getting off track, where were we? Oh yeah, Ghost Rider. Preferably either the Johnny Blaze or Danny Ketch versions, as while I love Robbie Reyes to death, the motorcycle has so much more aura than the Hellcharger. No offense. It's just so cool. Anyways, yeah, the chain is awesome, obviously, and the whole fiery aspect isn't really done on many other characters, so it'd fit him perfectly. I imagine for some of his moves, he'd use the chain as his primary weapon, and one of his moves could be used to pull in enemies, then the motorcycle could also be used to run down enemies. Oh, and his ultimate has to be the Panacea, obviously. His quote for it should be something like, "Face your judgment," or something badass along those lines. Having Ghost Rider would be the sickest thing ever, and we all know it. Finally, we're done with the duelists. Now to move on to the more interesting segment, Strategist, because we absolutely need more of those.
Man, just what are you doing?
What am I doing? I'm saying the N-word.
And for my first pick, we have none other than Rescue, a fairly underrated character even with her appearance in Avengers Endgame and Iron Man Armored Adventures. Now, we already have Iron Man, and I already said War Machine was my number one pick, so why not complete the trio by bringing in Pepper Potts? Unlike the other two, the Rescue Armor's main purpose is to, well, rescue people. It generates electromagnetic force fields, and in Armored Adventures, it can go invisible. I'm not really sure what it does in Endgame though, since it only appeared for the final battle and nothing else. Anyways, we have like a 0 flying strategist, and since there's quite a few flying characters that usually can't be reached by healers, having a flying healer would help fix that by a lot. Granted, they'd probably need to tone down the flying a bit so she can stay closer to the backline and stuff, but again, not a game developer, and this is the only hero shooter I've ever played, so don't expect me to have the most expert ideas on how character kits work. I'm just a comic book nerd, and having the Iron Trio would be the sickest thing ever. Now yet another Spider-Man villain, Mr. Negative. His connection to the Light Force and Dark Force, the same things that Cloak and Dagger are connected to, can make for a pretty cool character to play as. I think giving him a sword that he can channel his abilities through to heal and buff characters would be sick, and for his ultimate, he could give everyone a huge buff with his powers, making them turn monochrome like him if they're within a certain distance, and giving them extra damage. And another Spider-Man villain, you can tell I love them, the Spot. Ever since Across the Spider-Verse, a lot of people have been introduced to this character who, let's be real, never really did anything of significance prior to said movie. But his portals, those are where it counts. Since Rivals is technically a multiverse story, Spot could, channel the energy from different universes and use his portals to heal allies, or the more obvious choice, using the portals to teleport characters away from danger in a more common way than how Doctor Strange does it. He could also give an ally a buff where, if an enemy attacks, a portal will take that attack and redirect it at the enemy. Spot's way more unique than people realize, and his abilities can be versatile if done correctly. And since I said we don't have any Inhumans, Lockjaw would be pretty cool alongside my Medusa pick. Granted, the most he'd be able to do is teleport and stuff, but since the devs have already taken creative liberties by giving characters changes to their powers, they could easily give Lockjaw the power to heal as well as to teleport away from danger. That's pretty much it for him, since he doesn't have as much variety as other characters on this list, but I still think it'd be pretty cool to add him. Lastly, a more unusual pick than you'd expect, Spider-Ham. Yes, I know, it's probably surprising, but hear me out for a second. He comes from a cartoonish world, right? So imagine he has cartoonish capabilities. Like, instead of healing powers, he throws hot dogs or something at his allies, which can heal them. His main attack could be the regular webs, yes, but he could also have the wooden mallet from Spider-Verse, maybe as a special move or something. Is this pick out of the blue? Yes. Do I care?
No.
Plenty of people have picked Slapstick, so I feel like Spider-Ham works too. Having more spider heroes that aren't just Peter's other skins would be sick as hell, and I'd be all for it. Alright, so with that, those are my top 5 picks for each role. Now, granted, there are way more characters that I want, like Cyclops, Carnage, Juggernaut, I could go on. But for now, these picks will do me good. I'm so in love with this game, even if the ranked experience is pure torture when solo queuing. Every character, good or bad, feels fun to learn, and Black Widow is also here. I hope at least a few of these guys end up in the game. Anyways, what characters do you guys want to see in the game? Let me know in the comments. Give the video a like and consider subscribing, and thank you for watching. I'll see you next time if you choose to stick around. Please do. Peace!